at almost 10 o'clock to an email from Candace saying that Marcy Knox had to leave town and she was to be the reader today. And so she was begging the readers, will somebody please read? And I just happened to be there like 5 minutes after she wrote this email. So she got to go to bed in peace. Dr. Wayne W. Dyer, in his book, The Experience of God, page 135, wrote, "The glue that holds every cell in our bodies together and the glue that holds the universe together is love. A cell inside the body that is cancerous is one that will gobble up the cell adjacent to it because it has no identification with the whole, whereas a cell that is healthy will stay at peace with the cell adjacent to it. I think that each one of us is like a single cell in a body called humanity, and we have dis-ease when we want to fight with the people next to us. By finding ease within ourselves and serving our connection to the whole, we can all live in harmony." Joseph Campbell wrote, "When we quit thinking primarily about ourselves and our own self-preservation, we undergo a truly heroic transformation of consciousness." I think I'll read that one again.
Yeah, that's a good one.
When we quit thinking primarily about ourselves and our own self-preservation, we undergo a truly heroic transformation of consciousness. Let us join as one voice in speaking these words of truth together with conviction. This
is my eternal moment of revitalization and renewal. I know myself as a radiant expression of universal wholeness, which God is, I am. I dedicate my life to expanding in love, creativity, spiritual authority, and generosity, which naturally flows inward, upward, and outward by means of me. Thank you, Nancy. So I love that idea. Love is the glue that holds together the cells of our bodies, holds us together in relationship with one another, that truly makes the universe work. It's the underpinning energy behind it all. And with all that's going on in the world right now, and I know all of you know what I'm talking about, love is the energy that's being called for more than ever before. And what I love is that there is great work being done all over the planet as thousands gather together. And I know James Twyman has done it, Lynn McTaggart has done it, Neil Donald Walsh has done it, and I'm sure there are others. Well, also when we do the World Healing Meditation every December 31st, that's another time when many, many, many people gather. And all of those who put together the Maharishi experiments some time ago that gathered together in meditation and saw the impact that it had on reducing violence and other indicators of unrest and dis-ease among humanity. We know that there are wonderful ways in which we can participate in disseminating this thing called love, in extending the love that we are beyond ourselves and making a true difference. And here's the interesting thing that's happening as these various people have been experimenting with this, is they've begun to pull in scientists. And it's interesting today how, have you noticed, I don't know if any of you watch this online or even just in our Science of Mind magazine, how many scientists are becoming mystics. I call them mystic scientists. because they are combining their interest in consciousness and the creation, that creative power of intention and of love to make a difference on the planet. And what they are doing is that they are using scientific instruments to measure changes in brain waves, changes in configurations in what's being fired in the brain. They're able to see actual changes in the neurobiology of meditators over a period of time, or even sometimes instantaneously. There'll be this huge light up of somebody's brain that coincides with an enlightenment type experience, samadhi or nirvana, or whatever you want to call it, those experiences when people reach a state of high consciousness and the whole entire brain reorganizes and turns, comes into a whole different way of being for that individual, a whole different perspective on life. These unitive, illuminating experiences that are now being documented. It's very exciting. And some of the pioneers that have been highlighted in the Science of Mind magazine recently are Joe Dispenza and Lynn McTaggart. And if you haven't already read those articles, I highly recommend that you do. Because again, what's happening is this beautiful marriage of science and mysticism and spirituality that is to me very exciting. I feel inspired. I feel excited by how because you know what this is doing? It's not just supporting the teachings of all the mystics and all of the great spiritual masters that have come before us. What it's doing is it's helping to influence those people who've been in doubt about whether this is all really true or not. It's been influencing greater um, and greater populations of people. It's reaching out thanks to the internet, YouTube, and other methods, because I've been looking at some of the YouTubes of Dispenza and Lynn McTaggart, some of the interviews, and sometimes they're on an interview together because they're friends and they often do work together. But what is so exciting to me is I believe that tipping point, even though I know how things look in the world, I totally get it. But I do believe that because of the great work that is going on this planet, that that we are reaching that tipping point. We're closer and closer and closer to it all the time. And who knows, it may be happening, and this what may be going on is just the clearing away of that which does not belong. Kind of I'm reminded of what we tell our foundation students that when we begin to plant new thoughts in our consciousness. It's like a glass of muddy water, because the subconscious has a lot of false beliefs in it. And so as you continue to drip and the water overflows, little by little, the water gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. And that very well could be what's going on right now. Is we have been holding a vision of heaven on earth on the planet. I mean, that's why we are here, isn't it? Because we want to be the transforming power of love that heals not only our personal lives, but heals the planet. We are here for a really big purpose. We are here for a big purpose. Can you feel that? Yeah. And that's what excites me, is because not only are we engaged in it, we're not really here alone. Sometimes I know we can feel like, oh, is anything really happening out there? We're all doing our own individual work here and we're working as a community, but is it really making a difference? Yes. I guarantee you it's making a difference. And here's another thing that science is showing us that we know is so true. And that's why I invited you to be part of the intending process at the beginning of the service, is because they are able to now measure with instruments that when we create an intention, it's an actual thing. It's an energy. And it's a energy that creates, that organizes. They can actually measure that when you set an intention, that it has an organizing effect on the atmosphere that can be measured by instruments. It's an organizing. In other words, chaos becomes organized. What seems to be chaos becomes organized, okay? We know that when we set an intention, when we meditate, that this coherence that they talk about can be seen on instruments. The heart waves and the brain waves begin to get into this beautiful, coherent flow. And you could say, okay, so what? Right? Well, what happens is they're finding that when that kind of coherence takes place, that's when you get beyond the monkey mind, the surface mind, and you're able to access the deeper creative powers within you and the inspiration, the new ideas, the higher ideas of who you are and what it is that you are to bring forth in creation on this planet. So keep in mind those coherent states is what we are continually developing in ourselves so that we walk around as coherent beings in our day-to-day lives, not just when we're meditating. So the idea is to develop that coherent state. So I don't want to get too far away from my message here, but so here's the thing that I think we want to understand. This to me is so important, is that transformation can be challenging. I get that. I get that because I see what happens in students quite often when they start this process of planting new thoughts, new seed thoughts in consciousness, as they start the visioning process and catch a higher vision in their lives. All of the mud, everything that is unlike love comes to the surface to be healed. And if we don't know that, we can run away and say, this doesn't work. This does not work. This is not working. But see, here's the thing, and this is what has been found, is that 95% of who we are by the age of 35 is a set of beliefs and perceptions, attitudes, and emotional reactions that are hardwired into not only the subconscious mind, but into our neurobiology. Now, the cool thing is we know that the brain is plastic. They call it neuroplasticity. And it is, as we meditate, this is the beauty of meditation for me personally, is that I'm able to be an observer of my reactions and all of that kind of thing, and realize that's somehow related to my programming, and it's up to me to shift that. And so we shift that by making a commitment to continually shift our thinking all day long, and especially though when we are in a deep state of meditation. I encourage all of you, before you set your intentions, to meditate first. And here's why. In our normal waking state, we're in beta, what's known as beta state. In beta state, our focus is on external things. That's why sometimes it's really hard to get beyond the external world. When we're in beta, it's like, oh, this is real. All this solid stuff, this is what the reality is. When we meditate, we close our eyes, we drop down into our hearts, or we focus on what I love Joe Dispenza's, some of his meditations. We focus on what he says, the field, he calls it the space and the space, or whatever. He uses all of these words, but the idea is we focus on the field of universal mind instead of the world of effects. And the world of effects is bodies, everything around us. We learn to shut off all of that, turn within to that field, that the source that's within us, We can call it the presence of God. We can call it the source. We can call it the field of pure potentiality and possibility. Whatever we call it, that is the place where we want to go for true transformation to take place. Yeah, we can go around day after day and do our affirmations over and over again, and eventually, it'll work. But there are what we're finding is there are faster tracks to transformation. And so understanding how these different states of consciousness work is really important. So when we meditate, again, we drop into alpha and we drop into theta, into these deeper states of consciousness where the inner world becomes more real than the outer world. Do you see what's happening here? This is how we get to the point where we can look beyond conditions is through meditation because we're becoming familiar with the inner world and we're able to see all of the subconscious thoughts that are now in our awareness and how they're creating our reality. And then we're able to shift it. We're able to access something deeper, the deeper mind, the one mind, where all of the new ideas are. And so we're able to release those old patterns of programming, and we're able to implant something new, become new. And all of these different spiritual traditions talk about it in a different way. The Christians call it being reborn. You know, the uh, the Hindus have their own version of it. They call it samadhi or being transformed or whatever. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's a process of transformation that takes place at the subconscious and can be registered in the neurobiology. This is the beauty of it. And we know that there are methods to do that. We know the breath is a great bridge, slowing the breath down. We know closing the eyes is really important. In fact, I have a mask that I put on that's kind of a darkened mask so that I can helps me turn inward a little bit more than I normally would. And like I said, Joe Dispenza has this whole thing about focusing on the field. He calls it the space beyond the space, or the space and the space, or whatever. But if if you look at what's going on there, it's getting beyond the physical and into that field of pure potentiality. Okay. So that's why when we know originally that, again, that it can feel uncomfortable when we go through transformation because we are contradicting the current programming. And if we know that, then we can keep moving forward even if it feels uncomfortable. I hope everybody heard that because this is really important so you don't give up and you keep moving forward. Okay. And so now, so with Joe Dispenza's work, he's actually working more on an individual level with people and noticing things about how the brain waves slow down, become more highly organized and coherent with meditation, and and recording how things rewire and so on. And then there's Lynn McTaggart's work, which I spoke about several weeks ago. And here's what really excites me about her work is that she has studied, she studied first with large, like thousands of people online gathering together to have a focused intention for 10 minutes all at the same time. And they started off with plants, just to see if they could influence the growth of plants. One that was a control and then the other that was being focused on. And they got some good results with that. And then she was like, okay, come on, let's go and let's find a place in the world that we can focus on that's maybe war torn and can use the power of our intention. And so she did it with with Sri Lanka was one of the ones that I read about. This was some time ago. This was 2006, maybe 2008. It was a while ago, and they had a really interesting result in that the violence actually increased for a period of time, and then a what 25-year war or something suddenly ended. And she said, "Was that from us? There's no way we can totally prove it, but it's really interesting results." And what I love about her is she has that scientific mind. She's always questioning, is this working? And is there another way that we can look at this? So then she decided to experiment with small groups and divided people into about 8 people per group and would go into these big conferences, with people and have a lot of people involved in this. And again, wanting to study the intention on a certain person. Well, what happened was something really interesting and actually really exciting is that the people who were the givers, and this also happened in the large experiments as well, the people who were the givers had illuminating experiences of energy running through them, experiences of unitive oneness experiences of light, all of the things that have been that meditators work toward for years and years and years, happening spontaneously when they are directing their intention and love. See, here's the thing about love again. Love toward healing someone or some situation. And what she found in her experiments was very interesting, that yes, the people who were received healings, dramatic healings, sometimes instantaneous healings of long-term depression, of arthritic conditions, of post-traumatic stress disorder, long-term problems with that, all kinds of things that were being healed. However, there was the unintended or inadvertent healing of those giving, and in some cases, even more dramatic than the receivers, which was really, really exciting to her, because what it means, and these people that she had involved did not necessarily have any great experience in the healing arts. Some did, some didn't, but had absolutely amazing experiences right on the spot. What excites me about this, and this is why I'm engaging our community in this idea of Power of Eight groups, is that we right here and right now, I don't care who you are, have the ability to affect powerful change. And I know some of you have been reading the Power of Eight book, and you've seen the amazing things that are happening with people and have happened with people. So here are some examples. Chronic fatigue syndrome, gone. I said lifelong depression, gone. Arthritic conditions, gone. Chronic migraines, gone. PTSD, healed. Dream jobs, manifested. Windfalls of money just when they're needed, realized. We're talking about all areas of life. Initially it was physical healings that she was focused on, but then all these other things started happening. So here's what she realized when they began to hook people up and find out what was going on, is that people, when they get into these states of compassion and altruism and intention for others, go into these high states of gamma waves. And in those high states, there are instantaneous healings that take place. So, and then the other thing that they realized, and that the quantum scientists are showing this, is that in truly we are all one at this non-local level. that the reason why we can do this for each other and it happens to us at the same time is because we're all interconnected. It's not like there's a separate you and a separate me at this deeper level. We all benefit. And as our practitioners have learned that, right? When we treat for other people, and we are benefited. We are tremendously benefited. It's a gift to pray with someone else because you benefit and we benefit. It's powerful. And they go through a lot of years of training to develop these states of consciousness. So I'm still saying, yes, work with a practitioner. And I'm also saying, yes, let's participate in these groups. Let's begin some deep healing. Let's discover the power of, of intention that we have within us and how incredibly powerful we are when we gather in groups with a common intention. And so here's an equation that I'm going to leave you with before we kind of move on with this. And this is a primary equation of manifestation that we teach in Science of Mind teachings. And that is that thought plus feeling equals manifestation. Thought plus feeling equals manifestation. In fact, that's how beliefs are formed. And what can happen when people learn to do affirmations is they're just doing it at the head level, you know? They're just repeating them over and over and over again. So the thought is involved, but the heart's not involved, the feeling's not involved. So when you combine the two, and the feeling states that we're talking about are love, compassion, gratitude, joy, that's what happens when we intend for another person, when we pray for another person. We are lining up with this energy of love. Compassion is love in action, isn't it? We are lining up with this powerful, healing presence of love. And it makes a phenomenal difference. It transforms consciousness. And again, the thing that I continue to return myself to over and over again is I can't, it's not really working to try to continue to shift things in my outer atmosphere, in the world of effects. That really the true change that takes place happens within me, in my own belief structure. And so that's what we're really helping each other do is transform consciousness, because that's where permanent change takes place. So a life led by the head is usually based on ego, and it's a life of frustration. And a life based on the heart, which is love, engages the creative power of the universe. So, how about it? Are you ready to put yourself on the fast track to transformation? Or is it same old, same old? It's really up to you. And it's also just as important to be the receiver as the giver. I want to really bring that back into balance, because it is in the giving and the receiving that we flourish. And that's why when we are forming our small groups, our circles, we are training our leaders to be peer facilitators, to be participants. Yes, they're a facilitator, but to be participants in the group, to be receivers as well as givers. So again, love is the glue. Love is the glue that binds together the body, that binds together the humanity, the planet. This is the message that to me is the most powerful part of what I'm sharing here today. If we can keep our minds on love, and altruism, compassion are love in action. We are activating the love that we are. So we have a couple of opportunities for small group participation coming up. Right after service today, we're going to be doing a Power of 8 group. You don't need any experience. You don't need to have read anything. We're just going to gather in the back of the sanctuary There's one opportunity. And then we'll see where we go from there once we get a group who's interested in continuing. We also have a prosperity circle that Julie is starting. And I thought she was going to be here today, but obviously she couldn't make it.
She was not able to be here today, but if you want me to take names, I can give
Okay. All right. So Sherry will take names of those who are interested in the prosperity group with Julie. And then after service, you actually have two opportunities for transformation. You have Donna, a practitioner who is trained in the the arts of transformation, and she will meet with anybody who wants to meet by alone in this room right here after service. And then those of us who want to experiment with the power of eight will meet in the back of the room. So there you are. The opportunities are there. The principles of understanding it, I've shared with you, and there's just so much that we can do together, my friends, through the power of love. And so it is.
And so it is.